Next up, one thing many producers may want to keep in mind while planning for the 2021 planting season is how they can fend off any potential problems. And selecting the right hybrids for corn and soybeans could make a big difference in the amount of disease you could see in your field, as well as your input costs. Market Journal's Bill Dodd has more.
With harvest in the rearview mirror for many producers, many are already turning their attention to the 2021 growing season. There are several potentially problematic hurdles to ensure the best yield possible. One of the highest hurdles, however, is crop disease. Luckily for many producers, selecting the right hybrids could save you some headaches down the road. While many hybrids can help with weed and insect issues, managing crop disease should start with your hybrid selection. When selecting what seed you sow, it's paramount to understand your seed dealer's rating systems in order to ensure you know exactly what you're purchasing.
There's three main yield robbers that can happen in corn: insects, weeds, and disease. So disease is definitely probably the top three yield robbers in corn. So that's something that needs to be on a producer's mind every time. And then crop rotation as far as what hybrids to select for what kind of disease we're going to be dealing with for the year. Each hybrid is going to handle each disease different. So the rating scales are based off of what our scientists see and how they handle each disease. So nothing's ever going to be 100% a 9 or a 10 tolerant, but they could be a 6 or 7, and that's going to be different for each hybrid. So it's definitely important to pay attention to.
The bacterial leaf streak.
One of the most important steps in making your hybrid selection is making note of the diseases and the degree to which they were present in your fields in the past growing season.
Most of the diseases that we see here in Nebraska in our corn and soybean fields are caused by pathogens that actually overwinter in infested crop debris or the residue that's left in the field or in the soil. So those pathogens are present year after year. So yes, we can expect to see some sort of disease. It might not be the same disease. It might be another residue-borne disease. But once we have that pathogen there in the field and we have the weather conditions, and if we have a susceptible hybrid or variety, we can expect that disease to develop. And knowing the severity of disease in your field can also help you determine, do you need a resistant hybrid or variety that has some disease resistance, or is it low enough that it didn't cause you problems this year?
As these seeds can help in controlling the onset and spread of certain pathogens, you may end up having to use fewer treatments to contain and put down any potential diseases.
In addition, if there are producers that are really trying to reduce or cut some of their input cost, a resistant variety is a great way to do that, because some disease-resistant varieties reduce disease enough that it might mean you don't need a fungicide later in the season, and so that's one option for you. In addition, there are some cropping practices that do create some higher risk for certain diseases as well. And so if anyone is growing continuous corn or continuous soybean or any crop, just know that many of those pathogens do overwinter in that infested residue from previous seasons. And so it puts them at higher risk for disease development next year or the next year. And in addition, if they're also using minimum tillage or no-till, where we maintain residue on the surface for longer periods of time, it might mean they may see more disease risk, and that getting a resistant variety or hybrid is even more important, or they might need to rely more often on foliar fungicides.
Many producers in the Cornhusker State are familiar with overwintering diseases and may need to take action in preventing them again this year. However, there are some diseases that don't overwinter in Nebraska, but depending on where you live in the state, you should pay close attention to the variety of rust diseases.
These are the exceptions to what we talked about in pathogens that overwinter. Rusts don't overwinter. They have to blow in every year from locations south of us. And so rust diseases, you might think, are not staying year after year. But in spite of that, we have seen rust pressure in southeast and south central Nebraska for a number of years in a row. And so I think I would consider a resistant hybrid for southern rust, especially in those parts of the state. In addition, for soybean, there's a number of important diseases there, and we have good resistance for many of them in soybean. Sudden death syndrome is an important disease for many people, and the very best way to manage that disease is with a resistant variety. And we know we can reduce disease severity by up to 80%. And then we have options on top of that to add a seed treatment fungicide, like some of the newer products like Olevo or Saltro that will even more so reduce disease. We also have frog eye leaf spot, like the picture behind me. And so that's one we've been watching closely because we've now documented fungicide resistance to the group 11 QOI fungicides right here in Nebraska. And so if you've had trouble managing it with a fungicide, that could be why. But one other option you have is to plant a resistant variety. Now, those are a little harder to find, especially in the northern climates in Nebraska, but there are some out there.
So if you've had trouble with diseases in the past few years, it may be time to research a hybrid that can help you clear those hurdles. Reporting for Market Journal, I'm Bill Dodd.